I'm into so many different kinds of acting that it gets me into, issues, I guess. I like old classic styles of acting, and I find that coming up out of me, and I find characters coming out that feel like they're from cartoons, and some that are just ugly, awful, dark figures that you kind of vomit up sometimes, and they don't seem particularly performance worthy, but you could make pieces out of them too. But my temptation is to use improvisation, or to use what gets sourced up, to capture it, and then to use my time to shape it, and to use improvisation to continue to shape it and reshape it until you have something that feels like it's highly repeatable and yet not overly repeatable, because then you kind of become prescriptive unto yourself, and you don't want to do that. So you want to leave enough room for it to be different each time, because of course it's going to be different each time a bit anyway. And you also want it to be repeatable enough so that maybe so you have something to hold on to, or that
do you feel any responsibility to the audience that they've come to see you? You need to communicate something to them. You have a responsibility as a performer to give them something they're looking for. I like to hear what musicians have to say about that, and this is the same thing.
I wish it were the same thing. I was always jealous of musicians. I always thought, God, just let me come in there and just say, all right, this is your instrument, and all you have to do is practice that saxophone, and then you play that saxophone, and you just are yourself, and you play your instrument, and then during the breaks, you put it in its stand, and you go walk over, and it's not so jarring emotionally, going through these transformations. I think is more complicated for me, or at least I make it more complicated, and I can actually say that there have been times where I didn't know exactly who I was. I felt more like I had become a vessel of sorts. And probably when I'm most on it, or when I'm getting to train the most and getting to train with the people that I like to train with the most, I do feel a bit porous, like voices pass through you, choices pass through you, and that my job as I'm getting older and wiser is to guide things a little bit, but not to hold on too tight, not to push, to learn how to let it come to you. And there were other performances where they were going to be eaten out of our hand no matter what we did. We could just keep the comedy coming and just not know what was going to come next and be all right, because we were familiar with each other, and I think our improvisational choices were becoming more compositional. We were able to make in the moment and really listen to each other. But having said that, I got tired of that kind of thing. Like, I'd rather see other people do that. I'd rather be an audience member for shtick comedy, and I think you see some really serious nights of improvisational dance. And early on, there were a few that I thought were composed, and they weren't at all. So that really popped my eyes open. So I thought, I've got to become a dancer, and I've got to be able to bring the music that I have inside of me together with the acting somehow, so that I could take responsibility more for myself and for what I had to say. And I guess the assumption is, or the hope is, that the audience will be better off if you're true to yourself. That's probably very true.